What is going on? Hope all of you are doing well, and welcome to Halloween Horror 3. Welcome to day 1. So I figured I would start off Halloween Horror 3 with reviewing a sequel that I had a fun time with, and that is none other than Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Now, fair warning to all you ghosts and ghouls, there are going to be spoilers in this review, so if you do not want to be spoiled, stop this video, go watch the movie, then come back. Just wanted to put a fair warning out there. So, yeah, now let's go ahead and get into the review. So, Beetlejuice is a follow-up to the classic, what is it, 1988 or 1980? Yeah, I wouldn't say 1989, but 1988, I believe, is when it came out, 2 years after Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And we see the return of course, Michael Keaton playing the ghost with the most. And then we have Winona Ryder coming back. We have Catherine O'Hara returning. And then we have some newcomers like Justin Theroux. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. Is it what is it? Therodix or something like that, or Thero? I don't know how you pronounce his name. And then we get Jenny Ortega, who is starting to really become a household name. She's starting to really become a big name, which is pretty cool. Before I get started, I want to get my coffee real quick. And never go wrong with some fresh, delicious coffee. I mean, yeah. Great invention, coffee. Anyway, so this takes place, 36 years after the original, and mind you, the original is a classic in its own right. Now, this sequel, I will say, has been getting a lot of mixed reviews. There are people who like it. Some people say this movie's a mess, which is pretty interesting. Yes, there are these little plots that kind of, tie into each other. Some you didn't really necessarily have to have, but the interesting thing is the writers who wrote this did Smallville. I think there was 5 writers for this movie, which is kind of a little overkill, I think. But nonetheless, the fact that it's people who worked on Smallville, I thought that was pretty cool. And kind of gave a little bit of some faith because, I mean, Smallville is considered to be one of the best Superman incarnations out there, whatever you want to call that word, incarnation or whatever, something like that, or version, one of the best versions out there. Considering it's a prequel series, it has a high reputation. So Beetlejuice. We see Lydia. She is now a host for this talk show of some sort, this ghost talk show, and she has people that come on the show and talk about their experience with ghosts and who's visiting them and things like that. So while an episode is filming, I don't think it's filming live. I think everything's like pre-tape, and then they air it. She starts to see a glimpse of Beetlejuice. It starts to put her in this panic attack. Now, mind you, after the events of the first film, she has kind of tried to do the best she could to erase all that went down, especially with Beetlejuice. It's almost like she's getting almost like she's getting PTSD from it, which I thought was pretty interesting. I like the fact that she did, in fact, have her own show. I thought that was pretty cool. And then, of course, we have Justin Theroux. I'm sure, I'm just going to say that. I'm sure I'm butchering it. He becomes kind of the love interest. They met at I want to say like a place where people can express how they're feeling after they've lost a loved one, and that's kind of where they meet. Right off the bat, you could tell he's a douche, not a very likable character. But after a while, she kind of calms her nerves and things like that. Then she gets a phone call from her mom. Catherine O'Hara is absolutely amazing. We do find out that Charles, Lydia's father, has sadly passed away. And we do know that from the trailer. We do find out that he died from a shark attack. And then we do get to see like his physical body minus the half of his torso, the upper half of his torso missing. I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, the way they explain it with his death is that they use like the claymation style animation with some CGI. Which I thought was pretty cool. I think that whole scene is CGI, the claymation, you know, I think they decided to do that because for those who may not be aware, doing actual claymation is a very long and very patient type of filmmaking. I mean, they had over like 1,000 different heads for Jack Skellington. So, like the process for stop motion animation like that with the clay, the claymation and stuff, it takes a long time. So I could see why, excuse me, they decided to go to the route of just using CGI to explain Charles's death. Now, the original actor did not return because he actually got in some legal trouble. I'm not going to mention it, but you go do your research. It's absolutely horrible. So I get why they did what they did. We do get to see an image of him, so that, they do show that. So once she finds out her father has passed, then they have, her and Catherine O'Hara. They both, I can't remember Catherine O'Hara's character's name. Um, so I do apologize for that. But they go to pick up Astrid, played by Jenny Ortega. Astrid is Lydia's daughter. And she and her mother are kind of at, rocks with each other. There's this wedge between them, especially after Lydia's husband had sadly passed away. We do get an explanation from Astrid because it'll lead up to what I'm going to talk about, with her character. But yeah, she lets him know that your grandfather had sadly passed, and she's at this like boarding school type of place. And of course, we do get to see a I wouldn't say a glimpse, but there's a few scenes where we do get to see one of the statues from the first movie in the yard. I think actually, from what we see, it's actually their school. I think Lydia's mother and her, I guess, took some money that they had and created a school, which I thought was pretty cool. Definitely something interesting there. So yeah, so they finally make it. They have a ceremony, and the funeral, and then of course Justin Theroux character comes in and wants to make up out himself, wants to propose to Lydia in front of everybody, and she's kind of pressured into it, even though you could tell she really doesn't want to. And then that causes Astrid to run off. She, ends up not paying attention and almost gets hit by a car. And then that leads her to hit a fence. She meets this young boy. You could tell right away she has an attraction to. And, they start to get to know each other. He, offers her, a, kind of offers her to hang out on Halloween, pass out candy, dress up, so that's what they decide to do. And, while they're, doing all what they need to do, we do find out that he's a ghost after they're kissing, and we find out they're floating in the air. So, he basically kind of tricks her into switching her soul to him, which means that he can go back to the real world and she would be a ghost. So while this is all going, after she finds out she's being tricked, Lydia does eventually find out what's going on because, she is speaking to the grown-up adult of, what is it, Jane? Jane's daughter, the real estate agent who was so obsessive trying to sell the Maitland's house. Yeah, the daughter's all grown up. Not the same actress. I wish they would have done that. I wish they would have gotten the same actress, but it's not. I don't think it's the same actress, and I'm surprised they didn't even get the original actress, the mother, to be in this. Um, so yeah, so she kind of explains to Lydia about how she hasn't been able to sell, the history, which we do find out, and that is basically he is a serial killer. Well, not more of a serial killer, but he killed his parents, and then when the police tried to go after him, he was in his treehouse. He fell and broke his neck. So after manipulating Astrid and tricking her, once Lydia finds out what's going on, of course, that's where she has to get the help from Beetlejuice, which she's not very happy. Beetlejuice is like, yeah, I can help you, but under one condition, you got to marry me and you have to sign this contract. So once he does that and brings her to the netherworld, they basically have to go and save Astrid. But while all this is going on, Beetlejuice's wife, his ex-wife, is resurrected. We do get a back history on Beetlejuice and what happened to him, which I thought was pretty cool. We do get Dolores, who is played by Monica Bellucci, I believe is her name. You guys will know her from the sequel to The Matrix. And she, comes back to life. A little callback to Nightmare Before Christmas because she staples herself pretty much like Sally in a way. She basically is a soul sucker. She can steal, suck your soul out of your body. And of course, we do see that. We do get a nice little cameo from Danny DeVito, which was pretty cool. Um, and yeah, she starts to go after, everybody she can to find out where Beetlejuice is, at. And I will say it's a little weak with that. I really don't understand why that was very limited and small, and it felt more of a waste on that. And then, of course, the guy that Astrid likes finally gets caught, and Beetlejuice, was able to take care of that. It was pretty quick and simple. I feel like he could have been the villain of the film in some way, and had Dolores kind of be like his helper. I think the two could have worked together in some fashion. I think that would have been just slightly a little bit better. Um, so yeah, they, try to get, they basically take care of that, but then now they gotta deal with the Dolores issue. So while this is all going on, we've got Willem Dafoe's character, who is an actor. He was well known for doing a lot of police movies and things like that. And he takes the job pretty seriously, and he's pretty much a detective for the netherworld and trying to invest this case. Then he realizes Beetlejuice has violated a rule, which is bringing someone living to the netherworld. So yeah, we do eventually see Astrid's father. We get an idea what happened to him, and he kind of gets that second chance with his family, and they do too, before leaving, which I thought was pretty nice. I really enjoyed that. Um, so that was cool. We get, of course, the waiting room, which has like the cool, little what happened to the people there, like they did with the first film. I thought it was pretty cool. Um, so Catherine O'Hara's character, again, like I said, I can't remember her name. She buys these snakes offline that are non-poisonous, so she thinks, and she's trying to do like this, I guess, ritual or some type of thing that she had saw that people do when a loved one passes, and she gets bit by the snakes and wakes up in the waiting room. Yeah. Unfortunately, they do kill off Catherine O'Hara's character, and it kind of makes sense because Catherine O'Hara is up there in age, and I feel like with her character, there's not a whole lot you can do. So in a way, it made sense. So yeah, she's kind of having a hard time accepting it. Of course, she calls Beetlejuice to help, and eventually one thing leads to another, and we find the group at the church, and then this is kind of where we get our Deo number, but it's not Deo. They decided to use something different, but it was pretty hilarious. And then, of course, this is when everybody shows up. Willem Dafoe and his, dead cops. Then we have Dolores showing up, Justin Thurlock's character. Like everybody shows up, and then things kind of go from there. And then, of course, Astrid is able to know what to do to defeat Beetlejuice and things like that. And yeah, so that's pretty much what ends up happening. And then we have a dream sequence of what looks like Lydia and Astrid, going to Romania, to Dracula's castle. She gets a glimpse of the sky, and it jumps to them getting married, jumps to her getting given birth, which of course we get the Beetlejuice baby, which is the second time, because in somewhere in the beginning of the film, we do get our first glimpse at a Beetlejuice baby, which is a nod to the animated series, which I thought was pretty cool. And then another scene, she wakes up realizing it was a dream, and then Beetlejuice kind of shows up and goes, "Man, I had a weird dream," and then she wakes up again. And then that's pretty much it. So all in all, I thought it was a really great film. I will mention this. They do tell you what happens to the Maitlands, which we do find out that there was a loophole, so they were able to cross over. No mention of Otho, which is unfortunate. I know the actor had passed away. I want to say, I can't remember, like maybe 10 years ago or so. But I thought it would have been at least nice to kind of, in some way, have a little nod to the character or a mention to the character, which I thought would have been pretty cool. And then there's a nod to Charles's boss. Now, as you guys know, in the original film, his boss and the wife, supposedly gets killed. In that scene where Beetlejuice is like, "Step right up, don't be shy." Uses the I forgot what they call it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So there is a mention from Catherine O'Hara's character, so it makes you think that, yeah, they may have survived, or so. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting, to say the least. Now we do also get mentions that it looked like Charles and his wife had moved back to New York, I guess, after the events of the first film. They decided to go back, which I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, there was a lot of cool things, a lot of cool references. The soundtrack to this movie is absolutely amazing. Highly recommend checking out this album. You got a lot of great tunes, especially from the Bee Gees. Willem Dafoe's character I thought was great. A lot of people consider him to be a waste, be annoying, didn't need him. I thought he was great. I thought he was definitely Willem Dafoeing it, is like what I like to call it. But it worked. I thought the character was great. I want to see more. I wouldn't mind a Beetlejuice spinoff with that character. Excuse me. Um, so, I gotta say, all in all, this movie was really enjoyable. I can see the complaints from people why they disliked this movie. I feel like there were some things that could have been worked on a little bit better or tweaked. But the practical effects were great. The Netherworld set, I mean, visually, this movie looks amazing, especially when we get to the Netherworld. That really stood out for me. Soundtrack is fantastic. You have all these little subplots, and I can understand why people did not like that. And it made sense. I personally feel like they could have done a little bit better. I do like the fact that everybody returns. Michael Keaton looks like he's having fun for sure. So that was pretty cool. I like the references of the animated series that we get, because that's what it feels like. I mean, with the Baby Beetlejuice is a prime example. To me, this felt more like a sequel and a episode of Beetlejuice the animated series in live action form. So I thought that was cool, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a third film, and it makes more sense, especially with the title. Now, um, the writers, like I said at the beginning of the video, were guys that worked, or I'm sure it's men and women who worked on Smallville. Um, I think a lot of people were having high expectations because of that, and considering there was like 5 writers for this, I think a lot of people were disappointed. But I thought it was decent for what it was. Yeah, I can agree to some extent for sure. But it kind of is what it is. There are some nice callbacks to the original film, and they're not overdone, which is very, very nice. The one minor complaint I have is I wish there was, mentions of some of the characters that did not show up. Like, I wanted to know what Otho had been up to. You didn't necessarily have to kill the character off, considering the actor had passed away, but it would have been cool to see where he's at. His character's at 36 years later. Seeing with the mom, the real estate agent, because we do get to see the daughter all grown up, that character's daughter, um, but we never hear a mention of what the mom had been up to. Now, a lot of people were expecting the Maitlands to show up. Gina Davis made a good point. Ghosts are not supposed to age, and that definitely makes sense. But you do kind of get a little, you know, kind of blink and you miss it moment at the intro, because at the opening credits, kind of similar to the first one, where you have a glimpse of the model, and when there's a scene where lightning kind of flashes and thunder, and you'll see 2 minifigures of Barbara and Adam, which I thought was cool. And I like the fact that they did in fact mention that they were able to move on, so that was really nice. I really, really enjoyed that. And yeah, like getting all the callbacks I thought was great. It wasn't overdone. You get a lot of practical effects. Yes, there are some CGI effects too, but it wasn't overdone. It blended in very, very well. I feel like a lot of people who were disappointed with this, I feel like need to go watch the animated series, then come back and watch that. And I think they'll have a fun time with it because, like I said, to me, it felt like a cross between a live action version of the animated series mixed in with a sequel. Technically, you wouldn't have to call it a sequel. You could just call it a live action version of the animated series. Um, so yeah, I do like the fact that we get a kind of a glimpse of what Beetlejuice's life was like before he died, and kind of get the idea of why Dolores is after him as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I wish I could say more. We I will mention we do get the Deo song, which is pretty cool. Um, for like 1 or 2 scenes, I think. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, but nonetheless, that is my review for Beetlejuice. It was a fun time. I'm glad Tim Burton was able to return and do this. I felt like he needed it, especially after, considering how Dumbo went. I think he needed something to kind of rejuvenate his brain and his creativity a little bit. So it was nice, and it was cool to see Michael Keaton return. And with this movie doing well, regardless of the mixed reviews, it still did really, really good. I think it was just slightly under 350 million, and it definitely made its money back. So hopefully we will see a third one. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you've seen the movie, let me know what your thoughts are on it down below. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. That is day 1 of the Halloween horror. Tune in tomorrow for day 2. You guys take care, and I will see you soon. I'm Film Talk with Mikey, and until next time, we'll talk films. Peace.